Hi. You're about to meet Deanna from 3 days ago, who thinks she's doing a closet decluttering video and has no idea what's ahead. Most of us are all too familiar with the old closet full of clothes and nothing to wear, so I'm inviting you to come along with me as I declutter and organize my closet for spring and summer. If you're new here, I'm Deanna, and here on the Not So Wicked Stepmother, I share ideas for navigating blended family life. You may be wondering, what does an organized closet have to do with blended families? Well, moms and stepmoms tend to pour a lot of time and love and effort into taking care of everyone in the family, and sometimes we forget to take time for ourselves. I know I feel much more prepared to show up for my family when I feel put together and organized, and I don't think I'm alone. And yet we have a tendency to put things that are just for us on the very bottom of our to-do list. I'm going to stop myself there and say, yes, that is true, and I do want to talk about that more later in this video. But first I want to acknowledge that when I went to tackle this project, I made a really uncomfortable discovery. I have been adding to my feelings of stress and overwhelm at home by not dealing with my own stuff. What my closet revealed to me was avoidance and overconsumption. That felt icky for a number of reasons, some of which are I don't consider myself to be a slave to trends, I avoid fast fashion, and I'm not an impulse shopper. What I have here is the result of premeditated poor decisions, a curated overabundance, if you will. I've been reflecting over the last few days on how I got here, and I want to talk about it in case it's helpful to any of you. It must be said, this is a good problem to have. How lucky am I if I have too much stuff? But that awareness didn't make me feel better the other day. It actually made me feel worse. I felt layers of shame, shame for having so much, and shame for feeling sorry for myself about it. If you've ever felt that way, I get it. It is a real problem, a problem we can solve and a problem we can learn from. There are a variety of factors that can get us into this mess, and before I talk more about that, I think it's important to identify, why do I want to make a change in this area of my life? For me, the accumulation and management of stuff doesn't represent my values. There are so many other ways I would love to spend my money, and most importantly, my time. The knowledge that I could have a different experience, one that feels more authentic to me, is great motivation for facing not only the physical clutter, but the behavioral patterns behind it. Okay, so here's what we're starting with. In this section, I have jackets and dresses with shoes below, sweaters above that are in a bit of disarray, off-season storage up high that continues to the other side. In the bins, I have swimwear, dancewear, scarves, belts, accessories, and then tops from short sleeve to long sleeve. In the drawers, I have leggings, jeans, shorts and skirts, pants, and more storage for the pretty shoes. And then athleisure and loungewear on this side, and boots, and a beautiful display of hats. Later in the video, I will walk you through more of the actual decluttering process and show you where I land for 2025. But first, I want to share some of my own behaviors that I know have contributed to having an overcrowded wardrobe. The first is the allure of a deal. Most of what's in here was either gifted, thrifted, or bought on sale. It happens to the best of us. For me, the way this usually happened was I would buy one thing, usually on sale, and I would love it, or I'd get complimented on it, and I would have signed up for email or text alerts for that first discount, and then I would buy more. Another thing I was doing was making wish lists of things I liked and waiting for them to go on sale. Now, wish lists can be a great tool for managing your wardrobe if you're only adding things to the wish list that you're actively looking to add to your wardrobe. This is not how I was using it. I was adding anything that I saw and liked to a wish list. Then I would go back to visit my little wish list and wait for the price to drop. If it did, I would make the purchase feeling confident that I had been wanting this and it was a good decision. What I was actually doing was building up the perceived value by wanting something and then giving myself a nice little dopamine hit when I bought it. Sometimes the item would arrive and I'd actually love it, but if I'm honest, most of the time I didn't need it to begin with. Other times it wouldn't meet my expectation, but many of those items were final sale and couldn't be returned. So into the closet they went, waiting to be worn someday when I feel like wearing something I don't like very much. We've probably all heard the sound advice not to buy something on sale that you wouldn't pay full price for, but it can be really hard to resist what seems like a good deal. So I've decided to unsubscribe from sale alerts to set myself up for success and eliminate the temptation. Next pattern I noticed was brand loyalty, which actually connects to the sale thing. I would buy something and think, oh, I will like everything this brand has to offer me, and then hit their sales. Now again, this isn't an entirely bad thing. I tend to favor natural fibers and clothing that washes and wears well, so it's good to have some go-tos. But no matter how much I like a brand, not everything they offer will fit my lifestyle and my body. That brings me to my next point, buying one in every color. Here are a couple examples. Here's a dress that I really liked and bought in 3 colors, and here's one I bought in 2, all on sale. This shows up several times in my closet. Now, the truth is, I may end up keeping all of these, but I will not be making this decision again. I did not purchase the multiple versions all at the same time. They were accumulated over years, but the fact is, I don't know that I need 3 different versions of the same dress. The reason those items might survive this declutter is they do fit the criteria for my current wardrobe, which I'll go into more later, and I'm looking forward to shopping my closet for the foreseeable future. But this is good to notice and be aware of someday when I start adding things again. Now, on the flip side of buying multiples of something I really like, I noticed something I'll describe as the quest for the perfect fill in the blank. For me, this shows up in wardrobe staples like jeans, white t-shirts, button-downs. I would have several of the same item because I hadn't found one that I really loved. In this area, I think the best thing we can do is just be realistic. There may not be one perfect pair of jeans or one perfect white t-shirt, but we can look at the ones we have and be honest with ourselves about what we're reaching for. One thing that I noticed is with my button-downs, I'm not wearing the more tailored ones that feel kind of stuffy to me. I'm wearing the relaxed ones that I can roll up a bit, and that's what I'm going to hold on to. Having noticed this, in the future, I won't be buying tailored button-down shirts, even if they're pretty and even if they're on sale. As far as jeans go, I'm covered. I have several pair in a variety of cuts and washes that fit me and I enjoy wearing. Maybe there is some mystical pair of jeans out there that would put all these to shame, but I don't need to go looking for it. And that leads into my next observation, which is the belief that the right clothing will change how we feel about our bodies. Sure, some clothes are more flattering than others, but I would rather focus on how it feels and drapes on my body than the size on the label, or if I wore it years ago at a different stage of life. It's normal to experience some fluctuation in our bodies, arguably especially during childbearing years. But shopping isn't going to change our bodies, and holding on to clothing that doesn't fit isn't doing us any favors. I will come back to this later in the video when I'm sharing my decluttering process and how I'm storing items I'm not currently wearing. But for now, I want everything hanging in my closet to be something I would actually want to wear today. And that is the perfect segue to something else I encountered in my closet, which is my fantasy self. My fantasy self likes to frolic through lavender fields by day and go to cocktail parties at night. And that's lovely. But my actual life involves children and pets, and most days end in sweats on the couch. Now, for me, that doesn't mean I have to let go of my collection of flowy dresses and pretty shoes, but it does mean I want to figure out how to actually wear them in my real life. And I don't need to buy any more. A variation of the fantasy self is ghosts of past selves. So I used to teach Pilates, and I had a lot of leggings. These are the leggings I've pulled just in my first pass. I still do Pilates, but I don't wear leggings every single day. I don't need all of these. We don't need to hold on to clothing that has served us in the past if we're not wearing it anymore. Now, trends come and go, and sometimes it makes sense to pack items away for future use. But I will never need 15 pairs of leggings. Truth is, I've known for quite some time that I'm not going to need 15 pairs of leggings, which brings me all the way back to the point I made at the beginning of the video. It's really easy for moms and stepmoms to put things we'd like to get done just for ourselves on the very bottom of our to-do list. As layered and challenging as this project is, I know it's going to make my life so much easier, and I wish I had done it a long time ago. Now that I have evaluated some of the ways I got here, I'm going to invite you to come along as I get myself reorganized. I started by pulling out all the spring and summer items I had packed away in the fall so I could get a clear look of everything I have to choose from for the season ahead. I could already identify a few pieces that I had packed away that I know I'm not going to be reaching for this season and was ready to let go of. Then I started pulling fall and winter items that were hanging in my closet and I know I won't be wearing for the next several months, so I could pack those away. I do live in a mild climate, but even so, there are fabric textures and weights and even colors that I enjoy wearing in the warmer months versus the cooler months. So I do twice a year a seasonal changeover. I do a fall winter and a spring summer. That way, all that's hanging in front of me are things I would be wanting to wear right then. It was right about this point of the process that I started to realize I was going to have a problem. I was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of clothing, and as I mentioned earlier, I was starting to feel a lot of shame about having accumulated so much. I allowed myself to sit in that discomfort and reflect on some of my behaviors that got me into this situation that I've shared with you before moving on to tackle the actual clutter. Once I felt a little bit clearer, the next day I had help and we went through together looking for items that I would like to give to other people. It really helped me to reframe looking at my closet from what do I like, what do I want to wear, what do I want to keep, what no longer suits me, to what could I share with somebody else that they could get a lot more use out of. I was choosing specifically for a couple younger women, and it became a lot more fun to shop my closet for them. And then as I was going, anything that didn't suit me but didn't necessarily suit one of them, I put in a box to give away. This isn't the first time that I've gone through my closet this way, but it is one of my favorite ways to declutter. I find it so much easier to give something away knowing it's going to a good home, particularly because I do like most of what's in my closet. I bought it. I bought it thinking I would love it. Even if I don't wear it, I would love to see somebody else enjoying it. And if I have worn it and just am not reaching for it anymore, it could have a second life. I have also been on the receiving end of this strategy. There have been times in my life when I didn't have discretionary income for new clothes, and I was so grateful to the friends who shared theirs with me. I also have a friend who hosted a clothing swap where we all brought items we weren't wearing and we hung them up on garment racks and went shopping. It was a lot of fun. So if you're looking to declutter and you have some friends who might be in a similar position, that is a great way to do it. Obviously, that's not going to do as much to reduce your inventory, but if you're looking more for a refresh, that's a lot of fun. After having a few hours with an extra set of hands and a totally different outlook, I felt much less overwhelmed and actually excited to share a lot of what I have. At this point, I should probably mention it was never my intention to take everything out and put it on the bed, empty out my closet, and face it as this big mountain of clothing. I know that that can be a really dramatic before and after, but I have done it before and it does not work for me. About 12 years ago, having just read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, I was moving into about a 600 square foot guest house, and I did that method. It kind of made sense at the time because I was moving, but I know now with all the distractions in my life, doing that method at this point would be setting myself up for disaster. So if you feel like you're afraid to tackle a project like this because you don't have one chunk of time, I really recommend trying the way that I've been doing it over the last 9 to 10 days. By doing it this way, I spent maybe an hour or two over the course of several days, which gave me a chance to take my time, trying things on, restyling things, and feeling confident about my decisions. I understand that's a significant time investment, but for me it was much more attainable than one 10-hour day. So I broke it into smaller chunks, I asked for help for a couple of hours, and I changed my perspective to shopping my closet for other people. The next important part of my decluttering process was defining my style. As I was going through my closet, it became quite evident that I did not have a clear sense of style. Now, this doesn't mean that I am never stylish, it just was kind of all over the place. I think there were a couple of key factors contributing to this, one of which is maybe a little more specific to me, and that is that I'm an actor. And so I like to try on all sorts of characters, and I actually use a lot of different clothing for auditions. I know for sure that certain items in my closet have survived other declutters because I thought, ooh, that would be great if I ever had to audition for this type of character. This time I really understood I have enough clothing to cover auditions. I don't need my closet to be a costume rack. The other factor contributing to my eclectic style is one I think more people will be able to relate to, and that is changing lifestyle and trends. As I mentioned before, I used to teach Pilates, and when I taught Pilates, it was not uncommon for me to wear 3 outfits in one day. Maybe I'd wear what I was teaching in, something else for an audition, and yet another outfit to go out. So over the last several years, as I've added more casual but not athleisure to my wardrobe, it's taken me a little bit of time and a bit of a learning curve to figure out what actually works for my day-to-day. Having noticed all of that while I was decluttering, I decided I really wanted to get a better sense of my own style to help me with this process. So while I was decluttering, I listened to the audiobook Wear It Well by Alison Bornstein. I had already started my process, so I didn't follow her entire method, but I did use her 3-word method for defining your style, and I'll share that with you. Basically, she recommends finding 3 words to define your personal style, starting with a practical word that describes what you're already wearing on a day-to-day basis, then the second being an aspirational or aesthetic word that describes how you would like to look, and a third word that's more emotional. So I spent a little time on it, and I landed on comfortable for my practical, timeless for my aspirational, and feminine for my emotional. Having those 3 words in mind really helped me as I was going through my wardrobe, and it was easier to spot the outliers. Now, that doesn't mean that every single item in my closet is comfortable, timeless, and feminine, but it means that everything works together and I can put outfits together that will fit into that personal style. I will say I'm at a stage in life where everything needs to be relatively comfortable. Now, obviously, jeans aren't going to be as comfortable as sweatpants, and stilettos won't be as comfortable as sneakers, but even my high heels are ones I can walk in. My dresses are ones I can sit in. I don't want to be worried about how I'm sitting or standing or how long I can be in a certain pair of shoes. So that gave me another useful tool for looking at my clothing and what suits me and what works for me. I have this great little palette here that I keep in the closet, and it really helped me also with the decluttering to go through and use these colors as a guide. I did keep some items that weren't necessarily exactly in my palette if I really like wearing them, but it's just really good to know going forward. I'm also curious about the Kibbe system. If you know anything about that, it's basically understanding your body shape and your bone structure and how fabric drapes on you. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about that as well. If you've used any of these, the 3-word method or seasonal color analysis, explored Kibbe, or found anything to be helpful in defining your personal style and reducing your shopping habits, I'd love to hear about it, so comment below. The last thing I want to share about this closet declutter before I do the reveal and show you where I landed is I really accepted I didn't get into this position overnight, and I'm not going to get out of it overnight either. I'm expecting this to be in layers, and I wanted this first layer to make really meaningful progress so that I can live with it and feel how much easier it is, but I know that I still have more than I'd like to have. So before I show you, please know that I know this is not a capsule wardrobe. This is still an abundant wardrobe, but I can honestly say that everything that's currently hanging in here, I would choose to wear. Everything in here fits and I want to wear it, so I'm going to live with it for several months and see what I actually wear. Right now my plan is to go through it again in September at the end of spring and summer and reflect on what actually got worn and what didn't and might be time to let go of. And one more note on that. As I went through, it became clear there were a couple of categories that I have especially high quantities of, and they are dresses, sweaters, and shoes. At first I thought, oh, these are my weaknesses, but actually I'm looking at it now as these might be clues to my personal style and what I like to wear. So I am choosing to keep more quantities of those categories, but I really want to focus on wearing them and enjoying them. And as I hinted at but didn't explicitly say earlier in the video, my plan is to do a no buy or possibly low buy year. I really don't need any more clothing. So right now I'm planning on just shopping my closet for this season, next season, and possibly the foreseeable future beyond that. For that reason, I feel comfortable knowing I have a little bit of excess, but I will be making an effort to wear it and I will not be adding to it. This is what my closet is looking like after the declutter. So I'm just going to give you an overall view first, and then I'll come back and go through in a little more detail. As you can see, it's looking a lot less crowded and it's easier to see what I have. There's still a lot of things, but it's much easier to manage already. So starting with this section, describing it from left to right, I've used these little plastic dividers to section things off to make it a little bit easier for myself. Starting on the left, I have jackets. And then I have dressier dresses. These are more things I would wear in the evening in that section. The next section is skirts and pants that I hang. This largest section of dresses here are my day dresses. Some of them are dressier, some are more casual, but they're all things I would wear, potentially during the day. and then athletic dresses toward the end here, and pajamas hanging on that far right. Down below that, I do have this shoe storage that I had before with sandals and flats. And above, the sweater storage that I had, but it's a lot less stuffed now. I pulled the heavier sweaters out, and they are up above there for the fall and winter, and I'll switch those out in the fall. So these sweaters are all lighter weight sweaters that I would wear as layering pieces in spring and summer. And then these smaller boxes have dressier shoes, and I have my purses up here as well. Moving on to my tops, again, I'm using these plastic dividers on the rod. In the past, I have done my tops completely by color, other times by fabric weight. This time I went by occasion and sort of level of formality. So I've started with my layers on the far left here. I have cardigans and then tank tops and camisoles, moving into kind of the dressier, silkier tops and knits that I would wear for dressier occasions. The next section is the more casual things I would wear, like to and from school pickup, to the park, just really day-to-day normal life. Starting again with short sleeves here, these are going to be more athletic tops that I could wear to do Pilates or hiking, things like that that I might be doing during my day but could keep wearing for different activities. And then starting with this orange one here, these are sets. So these are things that are, a matching top and bottom that I can just throw on together. Below the shirts, not much has changed, but it's a little bit less cluttered. I have more of my loungewear. These are just really things that I'm going to wear around the house, sweatpants, sweatshirts. And then next to those are the pretty shoes. These are all my favorite shoes that I would wear them maybe more often than the ones that are up high. I'm keeping the boots and booties out because there's room for them here and it doesn't really make sense to store them away. Okay, moving over to the drawers. Here I have leggings and athletic pants. I do still have quite a few of these, but it's much less cluttered than before, and I do work out most days, so I do wear those a lot. And again, with the jeans, I still have a decent number of jeans, but these are all ones I intend to wear, so I'm going to see what I reach for all summer. Here we have shorts. I have more athletic shorts and skirts on the left, and then more casual on the right. And in the bottom are some linen pants and some knit pants, again, that are just a little more casual and lighter weight. And then again, above the shirts, not much has changed. I have hoodies, some accessories, swimwear and dancewear, and this really cute little doll that my mother-in-law gave me when my husband and I were dating. And above that, still some seasonal storage that I will need to go through in the fall and winter. I did not really make decisions about off-season clothing this go around. I figured I would do better just breaking this into steps and coming back and visiting that when I'm going through all of this in September. So all in all, I would say I feel good about this project. I did make a lot of progress, not perfection. This is still a pretty big wardrobe, but I feel a lot better about my ability to manage this amount of clothing. And I feel a lot clearer about how I'm putting together what I'm wearing day to day and making use of what I already have. I've also learned a lot about my shopping habits and how I feel about my clothing and what I put on my body, so I think I can make much better decisions in the future. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and go check out some of my other content. You can also click subscribe to keep in touch. I'll see you next week.